Hello, L2.0 New York! Welcome to our first event in almost 2 years. If you will all please take a seat, we'd like to get the show going. We got all sorts of exciting stuff for you today. You will find on your seats lots of things. Okay, do not just sit on them, pick up at them, and then have a look at them. So, we have a really great show for you tonight. My name is Alex Fair, if you don't know me already. I run MedStarter Ventures, as well as I've been running Health 2.0 New York City since, Lori, when was it, 2010? Lori Wheeler, our first sponsor, is in the house. She's here someplace. When she was at PR Newswire. Now she's a mom of two. We've got some of the OGs of healthcare, some guys who have raised funds, even though they started startups back at the same time as I did. So we're all sort of going up the same path. If people want to come on in, we've got seats for everybody on the right. Careful of the wires in the front. If you are one of the panelists, please sit up front. The teams that are pitching, that would be Theme, Foresight 360, and Whisper Song. You guys can hang out by the bar because we're going to play some walk-up music for you guys in a little bit. And the same thing for Manny Fambu. You'll stay up there for a minute. So I'm going to take you through a couple of things that we're going to be doing today. But because I always forget, I want to thank the people who made this happen, okay? So Lori Wheeler for sponsoring our event way back in the day. I mean, everybody here has been involved. Big round of applause for Lori Wheeler. Woo! Okay. Our resident mixologist, AV technician, Avishar Nesavir. Also a resident polymath and a founder of one of the companies we invested in. Yeah, interrupt the guy with the mic is a great idea, Dr. Ron Rasmussen. Okay, so we are live streaming, so hello, Internet. You will have a way to be involved in this in judging online, and this is what you guys are sitting. So Garb, that thing under your butt. Oh, yes, those two things. Yes, ignore them. So these papers are important. We'll talk about them in a second. But anyway, so thank yous to all the people who made this happen. Deanna Dammers. God, this is what I have a slide for this. We'll get into it later. But Caroline Pang, one of the guys pitching, Michael Nathans, and just an amazing group of people. The people at front desk, Caroline Pang, I already said her, and Nancy Steinberg always does our front desk. She's not here, but Grace Cordovano told us to bring Manny here, so he was fantastic, and she was fantastic for bringing him. So a whole bunch of people. So, but we have a really big show for you tonight. I'm going to go through it a little bit. These are your panelists. They're sitting up here. They'll be sitting up here when the pitches are coming. But the thing is that you guys are all judges in our contests, and we really want to know what all of you think. I know I reached out to a lot of you guys on LinkedIn. I have a reason for that, okay? I want to know who you guys are, so when you guys fill out these forms, I know exactly what your areas of expertise are and how much to weigh it. And here's the shocking thing. Well, it's not shocking to me because I've been doing this. This is our about 1100th event, and it's about our 241st live event. We've done them in 35 cities. And what happens is the people who want to drive change in healthcare people like Dr. George Matthews, I've known for what, 12, 13 years now. And, you know, we instantly bonded because, hey, we're sick of this shit. We want to fix this system, okay? And him from a physician, me, my name is Alex B. Fair. I started a company called Fair Care, where you could get fair prices for healthcare. I know it's silly, but it's true. You can ask my brother, he's here, he's got the same name. And my niece, Olivia, and soon my other niece, one of my other 5 nieces. No complaints, I love girls. Yeah, I say inappropriate things. That's kind of why you watch me. So anyway, so she'll be coming too. So amazing panelists, you'll hear more about them later. This is our schedule. We're way behind already. It is now 6:39. You are right here at 6 o'clock, 6:15. So Manny's going to talk, Manny Fumbu, and he's amazing. We're going to do this pitch contest. And honestly, a lot of these companies have gone through a little bit of due diligence or a lot of due diligence. So they're all pretty amazing. I really just wanted to see what happens, see what you guys think about these companies. And amazing feedback, right? So don't pull any punches. Hey, it's not time for that yet. Man. Anyway, and we're going to do another networking break. So that's supposed to be at 7:50, so it's an hour and 10 minutes. Probably not going to be that. And then we're going to have this amazing panel. I can't wait to hear this panel because you got Gail Zatz, you got investors, you got doctors, you got patient activists, and just some of the smartest people I know in healthcare. I'm very excited. And I don't know if you know this, this is the first real event we've done in almost 2 years in New York like this. We used to do these every month, and even bigger than this, but the same type of mix of people, all the stakeholders in healthcare, right? And then we're going to announce the winners. Pat Hurd, back there at the bar, the best looking guy in the room, I'd say. He is going to do the math on all the information you guys do. So use the online form. You can scan the barcode on that. Makes it a lot easier for us. But the back of the form is actually where the real points happen. And that's where you say, hey, I want to work with these guys, or I want to do something with these guys, or just, I would like to mentor them. Okay, so I'm going to skip this, okay? But basically, the concept is that you guys, okay, and by you guys, I mean patients, doctors, healthcare providers, partners, institutions, you guys, your opinion matters so much that we actually invest in the companies that you guys are excited about. Now, there is a due diligence process in between the event. And we do the events like this all around the US, and we started going, we went to Colombia last year, that was pretty exciting. And we're supposed to be hitting these other cities this year or next year. So we call it the Menmo World Tour. Some of the prizes tonight for Reboot Bingo, for example, is going to be the Menmo World Tour t-shirt, which is pretty cool. It actually looks like this. Anyway, so we've gone around, and the whole idea is that not every amazing company is in New York, so we go to them. We use an algorithm on our online platforms, and some of the ones and some of it's in what you guys are doing today. We watch all sorts of things, 126 different areas. We do all that math, and it goes, it's the beginning of our due diligence process, and it comes up with companies like Medable and Unite Us and DocGraph, Misfit Wearables. These are all companies that got some of their first money in our contests. And then if you look at our actual companies that we invested in, Valera, Miami, Direct Shifts, all baby unicorns. Some of them are here tonight. Avi Shah runs one of them, the guy behind the camera. Matt Zachary runs another one, leading podcast in healthcare, patient access. But we also help lots of other communities, cities, the American Medical Association, things like that. So great portfolio. We have an accelerator program, and we're going to ask you to scan that barcode later. It's here, but it's also on the form in front of you. So, Avi, you want? Okay, so Avi's usually my technical producer, so I will go over and do this myself. So, so I would like to introduce to you the first piece of the evening that isn't just me jabbering at people, and ideally Patrick would be up here switching the decks, but we don't have that. Oh, so Avi, what are the names of your beverages?
That would be Synaptic Sunrise. Sunrise. I thought sunset.
Okay, so what is that? Synaptic Sunset?
The Synaptic Sunrise.
Synaptic Sunrise. There's the green one or the yellow one?
The green one is the cybernetic seesaw.
The cyber. Oh, okay.
Both
So-
designed to be bioluminescent under the black light. You can't light the whole thing like that. But
Very cool.
basically, they're both gin and rum based, lots of ginger, lemon, good stuff. They are both alcoholic, although the small pitcher is not alcoholic.
There is another mic. Yeah.
It's true. But this is small. Was that?
Here.
What?
Okay, so our resident mixologist, before Manny Fombu comes on upstage, he's going to explain what he has mixed up for us tonight.
Sure. I was requested to make futuristic themed cocktails. So basically, those are both made with things that allow them to fluoresce under a black light. One is the cybernetic sea sour. That is the green pitcher made with a combination of gin, rum, lemon, ginger, and a homemade honey syrup. And the other one is again, honey, rosemary, lemon, and gin and tonic. And the third, the small pitcher, is basically similar to the lemon one, but without any sort of alcohol. And if you notice them by the black light, they will all luminesce in various ways. So enjoy. There is a black light over there. That's why they're. No, if I had a floodlight, that would work. But next time we'll get the black light floodlight.
Okay, well, thank you, Avi. Big round of applause and a toast to our resident mixologist, Avi Shah. A toast to Avi. Thank you, Avi, for all you do, live streaming, starting a company, distilled science, etc. Okay, so now without further ado, I think we got some feedback from your mic. Yeah, don't put it into the speaker. And he's the AV guy. Anyway, so I'm very honored to introduce Dr. Manny Fombu, author of The Future of Healthcare and the perfect speaker for this event. And I really am not going to be able to do such an amazing job of introducing him because, honestly, I don't know it off the top of my head. But I can give you a great song for him to walk up to. So, Manny Fombu, come on up to the stage and let's get your 15 minutes of fame. Well, actually, he's got a lot more than that. I don't know. You know, it was quiet tonight. Okay. Sorry, walk-up music is not perfect. Okay, so here's your mic. Here's your clicker. And looking forward to listening.
Am I supposed to the microphone?
Okay, so one of those two pieces of paper you have. Here, nice.
Now I'm the DJ.
Exactly, somebody's going to do it. So I decided at about 4:30 this morning that we're going to play a game I call Healthcare Reboot Bingo. So you guys should all see one of these things, right? There should be pens on your chairs, okay? And so what we're going to do here is if Manny says any of these things, so, AI, AR, VR, I'm not going to say all of them because I don't want to give away. You can see it's randomized, okay? There's 100 of these, okay? So whoever gets bingo first, okay, is going to win a Medmo World Tour t-shirt, Vintage 2022, the canceled tour, the COVID tour. Okay, so right after Patrick put the order in, that's when New York closed down. And yeah, we have so many of these t-shirts. But there's only a few left, and they're collector's items. I knew you could do it.
You gotta work it. You gotta do it.
Very good. Okay, so everybody ready? Let's play some Reboot Bingo and hear from one of the leaders. And he's a good DJ. Better than me.
I guess I have to go one of these. Well, thanks everyone. My name is Manny Fombu. And today I'll probably share my story. And today is a very special day too, because I have a lot of people that I worked with in the past that I actually respect a lot. I have Ronnie, Jeremy, people I worked with. It's probably the first time actually giving a talk in front of me. Right, so it's great. Special occasion. But I'll start off by sharing a story that I think we all believe in. This right here is my grandmother. I am from a country in Central Africa called Cameroon. Who knows Cameroon?
Never heard of it.
Wow, I didn't know we were that famous. Does anyone know why it's called Cameroon?
Please tell us.
Oh. Does anybody know it's called Cameroon? Who speaks Spanish? Camerones. Seafood, right? So the Portuguese came over in Cameroon and they called this area Rio dos Cameroons, which means river of prawns, right? Yes? 1990, Roger Miller, they had it. Perfect. Thank you. So we are famous for soccer, you know, so seafood, soccer, and what else? I also should know this, cigar wrappers, right? So my grandmother smoked a lot of cigars growing up as a kid, right? So as a kid, my grandmother, I used to go buy her cigarettes and tobacco, and she would smoke and hide behind the house. And I would scoop out for my mom. My mom was coming, I'll tell her, she'd throw it away. Right? Things like that. So, right, so we had tobacco growing up around the home. I was born in the south of France and I grew up in France, but my grandmother was from Cameroon. When she grew up, during that period, women were not educated. So my grandmother was not educated at all. She sold tomatoes in the local market, right? And she had my mother, and she raised my mom. My mom finished elementary school, taught to get some money to go to high school. And she made some money from there, and then she got a scholarship to go to France to meet my dad. And so that's where my family comes from my mother's side. So my grandmother, that's in Washington, D.C. She passed away about 20 years ago from heart failure. Okay, so you had a completely different lifestyle, right? She had diabetes and heart failure. My mom, on the other hand, got a doctorate degree. That's her. Right, that's in Yaoundé, the capital of Cameroon. My mom lives in Washington, D.C. Area. So she has a doctorate degree. I have this louder. Thank you. I'll talk louder. I'm slower. Thank you. So Ronnie has no patience. She's like, sorry, Ronnie. All right, so this one, not that Ronnie. There's two Ronnies here. But so what happened is, my mom retired several years ago, and she went to Cameroon. But you see, my mom, she's retired. She's in the early 70s, but she works out and exercises, right? I have two younger siblings. I have two younger sisters who are all doctors. At that point, my sister lives in Orlando. I have another sister up in Seattle. And so the reason I'm going behind this is when you go to the doctor's office, there's a question they ask you every single time. Do you have a family history of disease? Right? So if someone asks me, for example, do you have a family history of diabetes? Do you have a family history of heart failure? Do you have a family history of hypertension? What is that question? What does that mean? So here, if you look at the rate of diabetes in China between 1980 and 2011, you see the rates, how they increased? What happened in China during that period? Did the genes change in people? What changed? The diet of people, right? That changed. We had McDonald's and everything else show up, right? And this is very common across the globe, right? If you travel, if for example, you go to West Africa, for example, the poor people actually eat organic food because they grow their own foods, right? The rich people actually eat canned food. It's the opposite here in the West, right? Where the rich are going to Whole Foods and everything else, and then the poor have no access to food. It's the direct opposite of what's happening around the globe. So you see exactly what's happening in China here. So the point behind this story is that it's more to health than just genetics, right? Environmental factors also play a role. Socioeconomic determinants of health also play a role. And so here is the beautiful city of St. Louis. Who has been to St. Louis? You guys travel too much. Stay home.
She went to school.
Oh, you did? Oh, perfect. So if you go to St. Louis, WashU is great actually in cardiovascular disease research. If you look at, there's a street down there called Delma Boulevard in St. Louis. That splits the city into two halves. Basically, the top part is the hood. The bottom part is the rich part of town. This is something you can find everywhere, right? This is more drastic if you go to Mexico City. If you go to Mexico City, it's actually quite clear. If you go to Mexico City, there's a big river in Mexico City, and if you sit there and you look across, you see like poverty on one side, and you see all the mansions with pools on one side. It's actually very clear in Mexico City, right? But this is something you can find in every city, not just St. Louis, right? But basically, the rates of diabetes and cancer is 5 times higher in this part of the town than the lower part of town, in the same exact city. Guess where all the liquor stores are? Here. We see this everywhere. Guess where all the nice hospitals are? On this side, right? We see this every single time. So the idea is there's more to things like genetics. And if you take it a step further, even identical twins born, right? Hopefully, same parents, right? They don't grow up looking exactly the same. Right? We all know that as a fact. So now, when that comes to clinical research, and we do research, because we spend, some of us here work in pharma, or develop drugs, or develop devices, we bring in the market. And we have something called inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria, right? Good. This is what inclusion criteria looks like, right? So you pick the perfect patient. It's like identifying supermodels to study in research. That's basically what it is. And then we get approval for the drug, and then we launch it in the market, and guess what happens? Uh-oh. The real world looks different, right? The real world is very different than what we study. So this is what is opening up this whole opportunity about technology and healthcare. Real world evidence. How do you influence behavior around this, right? So how do you make sure that you could take care of all these variables in the real world, right? Because the insurance companies are basically saying, if you do your drug study and trials and your phase 3 studies and you come up with this, we're not paying for it. Show me that the drug works in this population. That's one of the big reasons why we talk about diversity and inclusion in clinical trials, right? If you study a different population, you can then make an assumption that the drug works in every other population. I'm saying drugs here, but this applies to every technology, everything else you do, right? It's a medical device, whatever you do. You have to make sure that the population is quite inclusive. And so with that being said, who knows this guy? What's his name? What? Kelly. Kelly what? R. Kelly? Now, this is Jean-Francois Raffray, right? He's a French guy. He's a French lawyer. In 1956, this guy, Jean-Francois Raffray, there was a law in France that said that if you found an elderly person that lived in your home and you paid your rent, when they died, you owned your property. Okay? At the time, the life expectancy in the south of France was 77 years old for women. So, guess what he did? His son, Jean-Marie Claret, he found this lady. At the time, she was 80 years old. She smoked and drank her whole life, right? If you were about to make a bet, would you bet on her? Yes, he did. He said, perfect, I'll pay her rent. 30 years later, he was dead and she was still alive. Okay. She ended up living to 122 years old, and that's the longest living human ever. Okay. And so the point of this story is you cannot take general rules and apply it to individuals. We're all unique individuals, right? Just because I don't smoke doesn't mean I can't get cancer, right? So the main things that apply. We are unique individuals. And that comes down to this idea of genomics and being this individual personalized medicine. That's the concept behind it. Because right now we do these general studies and then we take the results and apply it to everyone, right? So because I took the COVID vaccine, I did not get COVID, doesn't mean that everyone that takes the COVID vaccine does not get COVID. Right? It's probability theory, right? There's a concept behind it. And so the way we look at healthcare today, the current healthcare system is, I bet if you go to your doctor today and you say, I have a headache, or I have some kind of pain or something, they ask you to go home and wait a little bit. If it gets worse, then you come back. That's what we do, right? So we wait until things get worse, and then we intervene, right? So time to diagnosis is actually much longer in the way we do healthcare. The proposal here is what we desire, this new concept of predictive diagnosis and prevention, right? If you could diagnose things way early on, you could intervene earlier, we have better outcomes. There's no reason why people should sit at home and wait. We see young people die every single day from things like this, right? I'm 42 years old and I've lost a lot of friends in Cameroon from like AFib and like general things that people don't die from, like pulmonary embolism. People die from these things in today's world, asthma. People should be dying from things like this, even opioid addiction, right? A basic sensor could tell when someone's oxygen is low and you could actually intervene in real world settings. We don't have to wait for people to die, right? It's like abstinence, right? Oh, don't have kids with abstinence. Oh, great, it works. But give people wearables, right? It's like sensors to notify their friends. We can intervene in time. That's the same kind of concept that we are pushing for here. And so here is actually a study that we worked on during my time over in Novartis. I would publish this in JACS, public information. And we designed a study using wearables to predict quality of life improvements in patients with heart failure in this, right? And so the original study here had about 9,000 patients. We did this with about 160 patients. But we ended up over a 6-month period, but we had over 41 years of longitudinal data sets. These are massive data sets. You track people all the time, right? And during the study, actually, so if you see the sensor, it captured light exposure, so we could tell when someone went to bed, when they woke up, right, and things like that, right? And you could see between basic things like this, you could predict hospital readmissions in patients with heart failure. If you look at things like the Apple Watch, like predicting AFib, right? These are common today, right? AliveCore. A lot of companies have worked on these things, Bioperformance. All these companies are doing things like this to predict things like AFib that could really prevent people. When I see people with Apple Watches and I ask them, "You have an Apple Watch? What do you use it for?" "Oh, I could talk during work." Okay, good. That's good, right? But imagine a world in which we have all these different algorithms that could pick up different things and actually help people in general, right? So you're seeing these things that we can do research and actually scale them in the mass population that people use. But the question becomes, how do we get this in the hands of the average person, right? Clearly, we can't get Apple Watches and give it to everyone, right? That's impossible. But let's find ways in which we can make this happen in a much better way. So this is several years ago. I was in Cleveland, Ohio. And Cleveland Clinic has an event similar to this. I think this one is much better. It's cooler people, right? So I took an Uber on my way to the hospital, and I was in Uber. My Uber driver, she was about 80 years old, and she had her app on, and she was going, and she punched. I was like, "What is that?" She goes, "I'm tracking my grandson's blood sugar levels." It's about 5 years ago, right? Her grandson is in college, right, in a different town. She's driving and she pulls up the sugar levels. So she knows exactly what happened when he got up in the morning, if he took his medicines or not, right? If he ate, what happened to his blood sugar level? She's tracking it. And if the sugar levels go up or down, she calls someone to intervene. This is the basic concept of digital health. That's what we talk about every single time, right? And we say, "Oh, is it being adopted?" Yes, it's been adopted by 80-year-old people tracking their grandkids, right? Medtronic has these things going on already. It's the same concept that we could apply into different disease conditions, right? So these are concepts that are ongoing. Did Ronnie remember this picture?
Okay, so let's take a moment, since that seems to be a moment point. So if you have not been checking things off, okay, so far I have more prevention, more participatory, patients control data a little bit, more equity. Okay, so if you're not playing the home game, okay, then you're not going to win the T-shirt. So whoever gets all the way across any direction, okay, no zigzags, okay, yell out bingo, and just try to wait for a good stopping point. Okay, really great so far, Manny. Please continue. We're playing our game.
I'm not going to say AI.
I've been writing down the things you said that I forgot to think.
So AI.
Butterfly.
See, everybody's got one now.
Correct. So this is a very interesting what means that if you look at a device like Butterfly, which is actually interesting. It's several years ago, during COVID, I went down to Connecticut and I saw the new device using AI that they did. This is a device that traditionally you could look at it like an Echo, right? You look at an Echo device for $115,000. This device now is selling for less than $2,000, right? They've done a lot of studies in Rwanda, Uganda, using hearts, like devices there, because all the networking systems here apparently are very complicated. They're not that complicated, right? Every heart is a heart, right? So you open up things and do data. So if you look at a device like this, something that is like revolutionizing healthcare, that you go from a $150,000 device to $2,000 device. We're in Munich several years ago, and I think GE has a similar device for $15,000. Right, but I like the fact of Philips has those devices for this high price point. But you see things like this that are coming out for entrepreneurs that are actually being proactive. That you have a device like this that literally you don't have to be an expert in cardiovascular medicine to actually do an echo. If you have no idea where your heart is, for example, let's say I'm not running, you have no idea where the heart is. So this one, not that. I'll make sure not this one. That's my boss running. I don't want to get running. Right, so. So Ronnie is a cardiologist, right? So I'm talking to Ronnie about it. So if you think your heart is like here, basically. If you take that device and put it here, it would guide you exactly where the heart is. It takes images and it can actually read it and give you information in real time, right? So look at the impact of this in terms of remote patient monitoring and the things that you could do with this. It's quite impressive they can do. And now we got to the point where you can use voice as well. When I worked at J&J, we launched Spravato, a drug for treatment-resistant depression. And I was done in Gdańsk, Poland, and you could use voice to predict suicide levels. You could use voice to predict depression. You could use voice to predict, heart failure, diabetes from voice, right? So it's quite impressive where we're going as voice as a biomarker. So then I realized that I was doing all this talking about these things, but I never actually did it myself. So I decided to sequence myself. So several years ago, I called this company, Nebula. I called them up and I signed up to get a genomic screening. So I did my genomic sequencing and I realized that I have a risk for having hypertension, right? I also found out that I have a gene that makes me able to smell asparagus in urine. I don't know how useful that is, but I found that out by myself, right?
I'm surprised.
Ronnie, you get in trouble. And so with that information that I have as a baseline information, so if someone asked me that same question about my grandmother that I mentioned earlier, what's your risk for disease? I know I have a risk for hypertension. So now what do I do about it? Do I just sit around and wait till I get hypertension? No, right? I'm also working with a group right now called Hilarious for Charity with Seth Rogen on Alzheimer's, right? Because they have the ApoE gene themselves. Their mother had Alzheimer's, and I saw her go through this period and when she died. And so they have events where they do these things now, where they actually educate younger people using comedy. Actually, a very fun event. It's called We Are HFC. You check it out. It's a lot of fun. A lot of celebrities come in. It's like comedy and acting and art to actually educate younger people about Alzheimer's and brain health. Right? It's actually very interesting how to engage people on these platforms. So I decided to have the digital version of me, right? So now I know I have a baseline risk. I have a risk of having a disease. And so now what happens if I eat less meat? Or what happens if I exercise 2 times a week? So I want it to be easy here, right? I don't want to say 5 times a week. Even 2, I barely make it, right? So what if I don't sleep for 3 nights? What if I hike Kilimanjaro? What if I drink more wine? So the idea here is to create this baseline kind of element for every person. If you do a genomic screening, you have a baseline element and you know where you stand, right? And so the decisions that you make every single day, every moment, put you at higher risk or lower risk of a disease. And so you don't have to go on keto diet or whatever diet you have. Be yourself, be the best version of you, right? And you control your own life and decide what decisions you want to make based on this baseline that you have. And I think all this is happening today. So you have a baseline piece, that's what we're talking about, that risk score. You have a gene that gives you a baseline from birth, and whatever you do, increase your risk of disease or lowers your risk of disease. That's what all the wearables and a lot of the things you guys are working on, that's basically what it's doing. This is a basic straight level concept. It's not complicated. This is straightforward, right? So I think it's the idea of us pushing this movement and this element. And I think that's what makes us go forward. And so if you do this, and we drink more wine and smoke more cigarettes like Jean-Marie Claret, you might die faster, right? But because you're an individual, so you have to control that yourself, right? And so if we do that, hopefully we will live longer and healthier lives. Thank you. So with that being said, this last piece to wrap up, I decided to do this piece and I realized that getting this space is so difficult to actually change behavior. So I recently launched a podcast called By the Orange. That's my Cameroon outfit, by the way, on my hat. And the idea behind the podcast is the skin of the orange is bitter, right? When you bite through it, the inside is sweet. So the idea here is to talk to entrepreneurs. So if you're interested in the podcast, reach out. I'd like to host you. But I don't want to use the word health in it. I don't use the word AI in it, right? The idea is to tell the story of why you do what you do. And I'm happy to host any of you if you want to join me. Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you, Manny. That was truly. So how did we do on this? Did anybody get close? I got about 8 of them. So let's continue the game. Over the course of the evening, if people mention these things, now no cheating, right? And I mean, all the other people are up here on the stage. You guys are going to be disqualified from winning because you're going to be the ones that have to say these things in order for them to be checked off. Okay. So that was some very interesting thoughts from Manny. But let's get back to the show. So next up on our agenda, pulling it up here, we are supposed to be doing the Reboot 2027 pitches. So we got 3 teams here, right? Whisper Song, Theme, and one that Manny's definitely gonna like, Foresight. So they're gonna come on up. Patrick, if you can come on up here and do my technical production, so I don't have to do everything at once. So here's the way this works. So you guys all have one of these forms, right? Okay, right? So you see in the middle of the form, it's got judging criteria. So Pat, go to the page with the judging criteria. It's got a big barcode on it. So, so there are 6 categories, right? So clinical benefit potential, the potential of project to have a large impact. Well, you can read the page, but so I'm just going to say, is it going to work? Is it going to really matter? Is it going to move the needle, right? Is it feasible? Is this going to work? Is this, does this make any sense? Have you seen this before? Is it truly innovative, right? Or what's innovative about it? And this is 0 to 10 scale, 0 being the least and 10 being the most, right? Would you give them your money, right? Would you fund them is the 4th one. Scalable, what's the likelihood this is going to go worldwide? And then 6 is just how good was the presentation? How polished were they? That kind of thing. So were they as good as Manny or not? Or more like me, right? So a 10 or a 0 in that respect. Now, on the back, if you want to work with these companies, if you want to try, pilot, partner, mentor, invest, or just talk to them, okay? Make sure you make a note there, and don't forget to put in your contact information. We will give them copies of these. Now, if you scan the barcode that's on the front, it takes you to the online version of this, which makes it a lot easier. It also lets you win a t-shirt, not win a t-shirt, just get a t-shirt. Okay, so the same t-shirts that we have over there, which we'll show you at some point. So we really need, so MedStarter Ventures is me, John, my brother was here before. I think he went to go pick up his other daughter. Oh, there he is, he's waving in the back. He raised most of the money for the fund, and we use this method to help us figure out the first pass of which companies we're gonna invest in. So 1,000 companies apply every year, and we put them through the ringer, contests like this, 10 to 20 times a year, online, offline, all that kind of stuff. We used to do them every week, but it depends on how much money we have to deploy when we're doing our next class. We want to do our next accelerator class this summer. Believe it or not, we want to rent this place and have a lot of our companies working out of here, and maybe some of you guys. So that's one of the reasons we did this event here tonight. Say, hey, does this look good? Maybe we should sit down and all work here. I know Ron wants to. We do direct shifts, a couple other VCs and investors, and some of our portfolio companies and some community members. So if you need a place to work out of, maybe it's this. Come talk to me or Joe DeSidrio. Joe, raise your hand. Where are you, Joe? In the back. Joe is in charge of partnerships and corporate programs. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so this is our first team that's coming up. Patrick, where's the? Oh, hang on a second. Okay, so. Okay, so sorry. This is I really need a full-time DJ. So I made the mistake, and I've made this mistake before, of letting people pick their own walk-up music. So it was worse, actually. I mean, my favorite one was I made the guy from ONC walk up to Are You Down With OPP? So, and I made him title his talk, Are You Down With ONC? That was Steve, my friend Stephen Konya. I always call him Steve, and that bothers him. Okay, so Patrick, what you gotta do is take the phone and go to the playlist.
It's almost like YouTube have a lock screen on here.
Oh, lock screen. Come on, they do it in every movie. You just put it in front of the guy, even if he's dead. Okay, you talk for a second.
I don't want to talk.
Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I worked with Alex. It's been 1.5 years since I worked with him, so I've been out of the healthcare space for a hot minute, but it's good to be back.
Still put to work.
I'm still working for Alex, even though I'm not.
Okay, you can sum it up.
He's the best guy in the world. He's like my surrogate son. So, Will. Whisper Songs. Michael Nathans, come on up to tell us about Whisper Song. Big round of applause. Be careful of the wires. Okay, so the way this works is you get about, who's my timer? Caroline Pang is my timer. Okay, you get 4 minutes to pitch. Okay, then the judges, who should be sitting on these seats right here, and Manny, please feel free to come on up and be one of the judges. We got 4. Where's Gail? Can you guys pull the other chair up for Gail? Is Manny coming? Okay. Not this way. She's not doing that. Okay. So when she says you're done, you're done. Okay. Now, if you do go over, if you just have like one slide to finish up, then we'll just take it out of your 4 minutes of Q&A. Okay. Now, if you guys have questions, you have 2 choices, or 3 really. You can tweet it out. I don't know if you guys noticed here that hashtag Medmo23. We'll try to catch that and tell you, and then ask that question. 2, you can raise your hand, okay? But then you have to make sure that you repeat the question into the mic so that the internet can hear, okay? So, I also want to thank Michael too, because he helped set this event up. He was the first one to arrive even before me. So thank you, Michael. Big round of applause for helping set up the event, because this is a volunteer organization. We don't have hired staff. It's all people who just love this stuff. So speaking of which, our panel, okay, of judges, you're gonna hear more about them later, but they've been with me for 5 to 12 years, and they love this stuff so much, and they're so smart. Okay, I'll shut up about that. Okay, so are you ready? The clicker here. Okay, so I'll do this once. Okay, number 1, hold the mic close to your mouth like this. Number 2, you got lasers. Okay, that's that green button, and it's a green laser. Okay, don't do it to Avi. Okay. Okay, number 3, don't do this. Bugs Bunny reference. Yeah, this goes to the right, and this goes to the left. Pretty much universal. Yes. Okay. So, any other questions? Okay, is everybody ready? Everybody got a pen? Everybody's got a paper? Okay, good. I want to see at least 70 of these things.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I forgot to do judge instructions. Number 1, judges.
You're slow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Okay, so here's the deal with the judges. 1, keep your questions short. Okay, he's only got 4 minutes. Okay, he's going to talk for 4 minutes. Then you guys get 4 minutes to pepper him with questions. Do not be nice. Okay, I mean, okay, you can be nice, but don't be tactful. Okay, and if anybody knows me, they know that that's kind of how I am. So you don't have to be like me, but meaning don't give them softballs. Okay, ask the questions that nobody else is gonna, don't be nice, especially if you think that they work with MedStart Adventures. Not naming any names. Okay, so no, actually, it's a teacher's kid thing.
All right,
Okay.
let's go.
Okay, so I will get out of the way. Any more questions, Gail?
No, I'm good.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you your mic, but it might be a little short, so you might have to move your chairs. So, okay, but don't pull it. It just mess everything up.
Okay, one more time, one more question. One more question, Alex, please, here.
Let me just make sure they have my question.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
This advance button over here on the right, on the laptop right here, is this, that one right there? No, I don't want to do that. This one right here? Okay. Yes, yeah, that works. Stop it.
You guys can switch your chairs. So, how many people went to events at our old space on 39th Street? Yeah, exactly. So, this is space we'd like to set up. This is our first time here. We walked in, we didn't have any technical things working. So, and we had known we would have bought a lot longer wires, but, and also I couldn't find the wall players, so, my bad. So this is not my thing.
We're ready.
Bobby, you ready? Okay.
Excited.
Please get me out of there.
Fresh air.
All right, hello, New York. Hi. Hey, thank you, Alex, for having us here. My name is Michael Nathans. I'm the CEO and one of 4 co-founders of Whisper Som. We've got a breakthrough sleep apnea diagnostic and treatment device. Quiet, please. I know everyone wants one, but just try to keep it down here. So, how come it didn't advance on the screen here?
Still? Yeah. It's on.
Okay, I get a do-over.
No, you don't get a do-over. I showed you this on this button here. No, you asked her.
It's not advancing.
Yeah. Okay, it's fine. You've done this before, haven't you?
I thought you'd be ready to go.
If he's taking your 4 minutes, I would give you elevator pitch now. Before the slides. He's
No,
gonna take all your time.
People say it's unfair. It's off. You hit it small? The screen is fine. Avi, I think you click that.
Ollie, you better get up there.
That's great.
So another good news, I saved a lot of money on my car insurance this year.
You should run the guitar.
Alex, every time this happens, we pass out shots, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. We advanced.
Okay, don't touch the keyboard. You should put this thing. Use this thing. Yes, okay, just use this thing. Don't touch that.
Don't touch that, all right. All right, we're gonna start over.
He's
All right.
better running companies than.
Hello, New York! All right, woo! My name is Michael Nathans. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Whisper Som. We have a new breakthrough sleep apnea treatment and diagnostic device. So what's the problem? It's low adherence to treatment. And the reason for that is the discomfort of the current treatments. You've got this CPAP mask that you wear on your face here, mandibular advancement devices. This shocks your tongue to go forward. We've got something new. It goes on your ear, around your chest. It measures your breathing. And if you don't take your next breath on time, it provides a little bit of stimulation. Get into it in a minute. But the reason to deal with this is that sleep apnea causes problems with kids right away. It causes diabetes, ADHD-like symptoms, it leads to heart attacks, strokes, early Alzheimer's, and it costs a lot of money. It costs Medicare about half their annual budget for people who should be treating their sleep apnea or not, who have comorbidities. So here's how it works. There's a body watch that goes around your chest. It measures every breath. We've developed a proprietary sensor, so there's nothing on the face, and the mouth, or nose. And this measures every breath. If you don't take your next breath on time, our algorithms in our little device here know it. We time everything to the millisecond. And if you don't take that breath, we make a little sound in your ear that sounds a little bit like this. Psst. Do you hear that? No. Psst. It's not supposed to wake you up, but it stimulates your auditory nerve in a way that stimulates your hypoglossal nerve to open your throat and your phrenic nerve to drive your diaphragm to take a breath like that without waking you up. So, our preliminary data, we knocked the cover off the ball. I mean, look at these improvements. This is what you treat apneas for. First of all, you treat them so that the duration is low. The longer they last, the worse things get. So we've got a 93% reduction in apneas lasting more than 10 seconds, 99% lasting more than 20 seconds, and the oximetry we really improved in those patients that we tested. So the real problem here is that there are only 5% of people with sleep apnea are treated. Half are diagnosed, half quit. It leaves 5% treated. It's a big problem. What we're focused on is the ones that quit every year. In North America, 680,000 people quit CPAP every year. And we're looking for just a small fraction of that for our market. Of course, we think we'll expand it, but to start with, we're going to go out, treat sleep CPAP quitters. Now, if you want to make an impact investment, sleep apnea has a disproportionate or disparate impact on African Americans. Kids are 4 to 6 times more likely to get have sleep apnea. Young adults, about 88% more likely than whites to have sleep apnea. And then the worst part is African Americans don't adhere to treatment nearly as well as whites, and they quit a lot sooner. We think we can fix that. So we've accomplished a lot so far. We've raised $5.5 million. We have a very robust device. We're getting ready to take it through FDA approval. We're going for breakthrough submission, and we're well on our way here. Our go-to-market plan is very simple. We're going to go to doctors who have prescribed CPAP and have lists of people who have quit. And those are the ones we're going to treat first. We have projected our income in an optimistic, most likely in a pessimistic way. Looking at the pessimistic way, we think we're going to have a very strong exit. This is our use of proceeds. And this is why you should invest. We're only looking to treat, if we treat 0.5% of people with sleep apnea, we're going to have, we think, revenues of about 120 million in 5 years, and that's only 11% of CPAP quitters, by the way. But that gives us, on a 20 times EBITDA, a $2.4 billion exit value. And, we think there's opportunities for strategic investments as well as an IPO. So this is our team, world-class. Dr. Fied sold his company to Microsoft and ran the first healthcare division for 5 years. Our medical advisors are world-class. And if you want to continue the conversation, take a picture of this and call me.
All right, big round of applause.
I get to talk for a second here. So that was great. We did do pitch practice with Michael, and I gotta say, we love when entrepreneurs learn from us together, because we've seen thousands of these, and that was great. So I'm gonna leave it to the judges to ask questions. You guys have 4 minutes. It's slightly less than 4 minutes because it went over by about 15 seconds, and that's what we do. We just take it away for Q&A time. And you really want this because these are going to be really good questions that these guys want to know. And once again, raise your hand if you have a question, especially if these guys are entering questions, or write it on the form. Or if you're using the online thing, we give those all them to him, and then he will answer them later. Okay, so anybody find anything on the bingo card on that one? I don't think apnea was on that. Sorry, but maybe chronic care management. I think
AI.
no, CCM, chronic care management. Okay.
Alex, can we ask some questions?
I'm trying to get the bingo game going. I don't know. I'm old. I like
Forget the
bingo.
bingo game.
Okay.
We came for each other.
Q&A begins.
So, did this technology come out of a university?
No.
Okay, you developed it. So how do you know it works?
Others have studied it and published papers about it, and they've used a lot more sound energy in the ear than we're using, a lot more. And we've developed a way to use a lot less. You just have to time it right and use the right kind of sound. Sounds that people don't recognize.
I want to get to your reimbursement strategy. I don't know if you know, but as you pointed out, the sleep study industry is hugely profitable and has high revenue, not only for the people that manufacture devices, but also for the physicians that make referrals.
Yes.
It's really hard to displace that with something that might cost less. So I was curious what your go to market or go forward strategy is.
We're going to cost the same as CPAP. We're more functional than CPAP. We treat, by the way, central apneas as well as obstructive apneas. So we can treat people with concussions and on opioid therapy, which CPAP cannot do. But it's $1,500, and we think insurance companies, the model for insurance companies on CPAP is phenomenal. They get their money back in like 97 days with a 350% ROI the first year, and the device has 4 years of life. So it's about a 1,500% return for payers, which if people would use CPAP, we wouldn't be here, the payers would be happy, but they're losing millions of dollars a day for comorbidities that we think we can stop.
as you think about your development sort of strategy, you're starting with people who fail on CPAP. Where do you take it from there?
Oh, well, if you're diagnosed with sleep apnea and you have a choice of treatments and you're presented with CPAP, a mandibular advancement device, or an implant that shocks your tongue, ours is the least invasive and the most comfortable to use. So we think people will probably choose us on the first time around, but that's not what we're counting on. We're counting on the ones that have been diagnosed, quit, know they have a problem, and are still in the market for another solution. And there's 680,000 in this country alone a year.
And then you're running a clinical trial right now.
So we've done field trials. We've submitted a breakthrough designation request to the FDA. They've given us some great feedback, and we're giving them a little bit more data. And it's a low bar. We think we have to clear for that. But we are starting our FDA approval process, and going to, as soon as they tell us how many people we want to test, we're going to start the testing because our device is ready.
And how long does the trial going to last for?
Well, it really depends on the centers that we choose. We're talking to a company called Velocity that specializes in putting people through clinical trials quick, which is what we want. We've talked to Harvard and UPMC, Children's Hospital of LA, and a couple of other centers that want to participate in these trials. So we might do a multi-center, decentralized test even with people at home. But we want to get it done quick. So we're in the process of deciding who to go with right now.
One last question.
I'm trying to get an idea of when you can get to market, because I'm calculating about 3-4 years minimally to get through.
Boy, we hope not. There's such a pent-up demand for a solution, an alternative, and the ROI to payers is so great.
The FDA's really backed up.
We've got a good advisor. We've got a good consultant.
So what's
Yeah,
your target?
We're
What's
hoping
your expectation?
we're hoping a year. We're hoping a year. We get,
To reimbursement?
oh, not to reimbursement, no, to FDA approval. Now, we're running a parallel track with the payers to bring them along with the FDA at the same pace, so that there'll be hopefully no gap. And with fast track, CMS has a program that they typically approve you pretty quick. So we don't think it's going to take 3 or 4 years.
All right. So, thank you. Big round of applause for Michael Nathan. Okay, so now take a moment. Mike, you know what? Never mind. Patrick will get it.
Did you raise $5 million already?
He already raised $5 million, yes, and it was not non-dilutive funding, and the question and answer period is over. You can write your questions on the form, but I would like you guys right now to take a moment. I'm sorry, Gail, it's a contest, we have rules, and we got stuff to get to. You got your panel that you're moderating, for example. Okay, so the next one up is Phoebe, but I'm telling that to Patrick. So right now, okay, as you can see the judges are doing, please take a moment to fill out the forms, okay? So 0 to 10, whether you think that this is clinically beneficial. And granted, you don't know enough information at this point. You only saw 4 minutes and I only had a couple of questions. But you have some information, so just give us your gut reactions. We find that if we average out what the crowd says, it's a pretty good predictor. There's actually, if you guys ever read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, he talks about this a lot, that the average guess on the jelly bean jar at the fair is closer than any individual guess. So, Rob, you're supposed to be back at the back of the room, so you can do your mop-up music. So, anyway, so this is the very first time, and certainly it's not going to be the last time, that this company has been presented in public. So the last time that happened was Misfit Wearables, and you remember what happened to them? They got bought for $240 million 15 months after they won the contest on our stage out at Healthcare Revolution back in 2012 in San Francisco. So, without any more delay, please meet Robert Delianartis from Theme Health. Come on up here, Robert. You don't have one shot, but tonight you got one shot. You got 4 minutes. You know the rules. You've seen how this works. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The clicker's right there. I want you to make sure you know what it is. Okay, make sure it works. Don't touch the computer. Is it working? Patrick, please get back up here, because I don't know what you did last time, but you did it again.
You know, Patrick, when he worked for us full time, was a lot better at this. I don't know. This never happens. I don't know. The same thing I think one time. We're a little out of practice. I don't know what happened. Okay, so timer, Caroline Pang, CPOP Health. Okay, big on population number. Okay, they're going to keep working on that. So, that's your partner's job. So, okay, so here's a funny thing about me. While I don't remember names and faces very well, I use databases. So, Stephen, we've been together for like 4 hours, right, in life, but I can't remember your last name. Okay, so that is exactly. I'm just saying that it's not personal. It's everybody. Literally, people come up to me and say, "You've met me 8 times, you still don't know my name." And that's important. Okay, are you ready?
Ready.
Thank you, because I filled up this space with embarrassing words already. Okay, so.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm Robert DeLeonardis. I'm the co-founder of Theme, or a HIPAA-compliant communication platform for healthcare professionals. The problem is communication technologies among healthcare professionals. They use phones and faxes and non-compliant platforms, and other platforms are walled in with big companies. The healthcare professionals spend an average of 1 hour to 2 per day on phones and faxes trying to resolve medical related issues. This is an example of pharmacists and physicians talking in a non-compliant manner about PHI, and they violate it on a daily basis. This is actually a compliant way that they speak about as something as simple as a PA, a prior authorization. And you see the phones and the faxes on this workflow, and that's the way that they try to get a prior authorization. It's a big problem. We have what we think is a simple solution, where a compliant messaging platform streamlines the communication. There's no need for non-compliant platforms. It speeds up the time to decision-making, reduces miscommunication, and it connects healthcare professionals from non-related companies. There's no IT integration needed, and we're in the Google and the Apple Store already. So this is how that mess before is now streamlined into a patient file that we create with data-rich information. This is a console. The console is our proprietary feature which streamlines all the information from patients into one file. There's some other key features that we can go into later. One is a medical lexicon, which removes medication typos, big problem, medication error. We're really the only solution that is free on the market right now. There's no one in this space. The game plan is simple. We create a great tool, we collect all the data, and then we can curate and monetize. The market is a big market. This 10 million, 9.8 million is not including healthcare companies, not hospitals. So here's how we monetize is on a subscription, licensing, and advertising. We think that subscription at $10 a month is very modest, and it's going to be mandatory soon. You're not going to be able to use WhatsApp and text to share your patient information. But the real way to monetize is through the data. We will never share PHI or PII. And look at these numbers here on the value per record. And as it relates to transactions on episodic care records at $54 per record, we're projecting $1 to $5.
I want you to have time for questions and answers.
Okay.
And if they don't know something, they're gonna ask about it. Okay? So judges, you guys have 4 minutes to ask questions.
I still have time, right?
No. I thought you said you were done.
No. Time back.
Okay, we get an extra minute.
Harsh, very harsh. All right, here's the buyers for data of disease, drug, and patient information. We think that there's a plentiful number of buyers. Our go-to-market, we are already going to market. We signed up pharmacies, nonprofits, and our timeline, we just went into the Google and the Apple Store a few months ago. We just signed up 40 pharmacies. We signed up a large nonprofit to be their online solution for patient care. And we have other companies teed up. So we're very feasible. We think that we qualify for grants because we are able to service the low income population. We can service drug addiction, opioid addiction, and streamline the communication in time sensitive matters. So I will yield now that my time is up. Thank you, Alex, for cutting it a little short.
I am so sorry, Rob. I was so worried that he was going to go over that I misunderstood. So my bad. So you got a little extra time there. But you did forget to do one thing. You forgot to introduce your partner here. So
this is Steve Malin. We brought Steve on a couple of months ago. Steve is, among other things, an author and a pharmacist, and he's responsible for some of the deal flow that we have now. He brought on the 40 pharmacies and the nonprofit that we will be their online solution. They have technology that is back in the 90s, and they've agreed to use us for their patient care online.
now we've been working with FEMA for over a year, and now we haven't invested in them yet, but he's been a great addition to the team. So anyway, so that's why I want you guys to make sure you know they've got a pharmacist who's got 40 pharmacies under management on the team. Okay, so even though you guys know that we're good friends, grew up together, okay, I was gonna put on Judas Priest because the first time I met him, he body slammed me. He was like in 8th grade, I was in 6th grade. I'd like to see him try again. We might have some unresolved issues. Gail, I'm talking over here. Anyway,
questions. Which I feel like is kind of bad thing, you know?
No. The opposite. My point was, treat him, so like I was a teacher's kid, as was my brother. We got treated badly because and that's good because you think that we're gonna get favoritism. So treat him badly, okay? Meaning like, ask him the tough questions.
You don't have to worry about that.
Okay, thank you. And don't be afraid of his ping pong prowess, okay?
Okay.
That's it. Okay, go ahead. 4 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for cutting my time short too.
Hi, my question has to do with your HIPAA compliance and some of the new privacy laws that are coming through, if that's going to interfere with some of the data that you're collecting. As you know, Europe has their GDPR, Brazil has their LGPD. The US is now looking at a federal law. At least 7 states have individual state privacy laws, all of varying colors and whatnot. Does that interfere with your model in any way?
No, but privacy is our friend. We will never share PII or PHI. It will always be anonymized. We'll have the data flow.
And for the bingo board, do you guys believe in patient ownership of data?
Is that the last one you need?
We'll never share PI identity of our patients. No PHI, no PII ever. Just anonymized patient. Yes.
My question really is around the competitive landscape. I could have sworn there's a lot of these kind of companies out there that people can go pick from, or hospital groups can pick from for communicating. And then, so how do you who would you characterize as your competition? Number one. Number two, wouldn't this be better served by as like an EHR company adding on a service like this, where you're kind of creating more of an integrated workflow?
There really is, and the walled garden of Epic and Tiger for institutions, right? We're not going after the lowest hanging fruit are independents. It's very fractional. They are using the text and WhatsApp, and they're violating HIPAA on a daily basis. That's our sweet spot. That's the lowest hanging fruit. There's no subscription model. We believe that we will land, expand, and then we can charge them while we're gathering data. And even if there's another company that comes in, there's enough to go around. If okay.
This is just a feedback. One of the things that keeps adoption of a lot of healthcare tools is inertia and the fact that what they're using is good enough. And I see great risk to this business model from the fact that there are already a lot of systems that are being used. And they're violating HIPAA right now and they don't give a shit. And they can continue to do it. And if they don't have to address it, they won't. So I'm just providing feedback in terms of the fact that we've seen so many of these tools. Alex and I have been on the ground level since 2010, building companies and investing in companies. I've seen so many HIPAA compliant messaging tools that didn't gain traction, not because of the technology or the fact that they're not addressing an unmet need, but because of the inertia and the fact that the current systems are messy and good enough.
Okay, we think we're in the right place at the right time, and that's going to change, and that's going to get mandated from the NCPDP. So they're continuing to violate HIPAA, but that's not going to go on forever. That's going to stop. That's going to get
gone on forever.
It has. There was a lot of things that went on forever, like smoking on point. I mean, things will change to violate, HIPAA on a daily basis. I don't think is sustainable.
But the matter is kind of like outrunning the bear. They don't have to do it forever. They just have to outlast your funding.
Well, there's a lot of fines going on right now. You can see it's very hot, but things are going to catch up. Where how long can you continue to share patients' information and get fined before you make a change?
I mean, you've got several companies now that are actually brokering patient data on behalf of the hospital themselves. And because in 49 out of 50 states, the hospitals legally own the data, there's really no stopping them from doing it right now.
Hospitals are not our target. The independents are our target. Yeah. Doctors, independent doctors, independent pharmacies. Oh, I think that if the choice is to go back to violate HIPAA and use WhatsApp or to use a HIPAA compliant platform, I think they're going to use the HIPAA compliant platform. I think it's going to catch up very soon. It's catching up now. So those things in the past, I don't think were an indication of the future.
Well, what percentage of the market? Guys, you're way over time.
Okay.
Gail has a question. She's got the mic. Let her ask a question.
I just to ask one of the simple questions. I don't understand how the 40 pharmacy deals leads to makes deal flow. How does that become revenue?
So they'll use the app for free, and
The 40 pharmacies.
the 40 pharmacies, which could easily lead into many more through Steve alone. So after a period of time, we think about 6-9 months, after using a compliant platform, will they go back and use text? Will we don't think so. I think that
Are
they'll.
people nervous about the fact that you're eventually selling data?
I think that everybody sells data. It's got to be anonymized. It's got to be protected. We've completely vetted it out. It's, full disclaimers, and we will never share PHI. We won't share identity ever. But that's not to diminish the value of the data between healthcare professionals. It's, there's.
Also, the 40 pharmacies are supposed to go up to 500, 1,000 pharmacies within the year. So it's going to scale up pretty fast because it's part of a bigger buying group. So once they use it with their doctors, their patients, it's gonna scale up.
Okay, so he's out of time, but I'm going to answer this question for you. Okay, they have very unique data. They've got medication correction data. They don't need to include patient information at all. They need to see, atenolol was changed for Inderol when the patient was pregnant.
So then why not just focus in on that?
No, it's a communications platform. Yes, the first milestone is to get adoption, and that's what they're working on. Eventually, there's a data plan. Okay, but that's not really the focus here. Okay, big round of applause for the first time out there. Robert, okay. You guys got a little bit combative. And it's funny because I was going to play This Is His Walk-Up music because it's Judas Priest, but and apparently it's not going to play now, right? Of course it's not going to play. What? It was supposed to be breaking the law. Anyway, so because that's the thing is that it's not okay that people break the law. Okay, so we got one more pitch to go. Now, if you will please fill out the forms and say what you want, and if you have questions, and ask further questions. If you would like to try this out, there is a link, which we sent to everybody this morning, but also they can send it to you. I've used it a lot. There's actually a bunch of people in this room. We've been using it together today, and it's pretty cool. So Patrick's going to try to get and test the next one up, and I'm going to try to remember what song I'm supposed to play. Oh, you have to yell a little bit louder. Zvi? Zvi, woo, bingo! Come on up here. Okay, whoever's taking pictures, take a picture of this guy, okay? Photo opportunity. Okay, here, hold this and read off the ones that you got. And if anybody else says bingo, please tell us now.
So we got vast regulatory change, so thank you everyone talking about bingo. Better CCM, so we were talking about diabetes and Uber. AI, because, you know, just shadowed patients controlling their own data, and data fragmentation. So data getting where it needs to be.
All right. Okay. So here's your prize. Okay. This is a authentic MedStarter Medmo World Tour 2020 T-shirt that was canceled. So there you go. Enjoy. Wear it in good health. Good job. Sweet. What's the name of your company?
Beria Biotech.
And what does Beria Biotech do?
We replace EpiPens.
What do you mean you replace EpiPen?
So we'll take an expired EpiPen, we will open it up, refill the expired medicament, close it up, and hand it back to the patient.
When do you come into market?
September 12th, 2025.
And what do you need to get there?
$3.5 million.
Anybody got $3.5 million? EpiPens for $20. EpiPens, $20. Okay, go talk to this guy or that guy, the guy behind the camera. And yes, they're a MedStarter company. And no, this was not planned. Okay, so Patrick, are we ready? Okay, I don't know why my music isn't working, but you know what? I'm tired of playing that game. So, so come on up, Dave. So this
I
is
wanted to do this priest. I wanted another thing covered.
What? I can't. I'll get it on there. I'll get all the different stuff. Okay, is everybody done with their judging for the second team? Second team done? Okay, good. Judges, you're gonna have your attention, please. Dave. Okay, so Manny, I want you to pay close attention to this one because you asked for this and you got it.
Thanks for queuing me up earlier, Manny. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. I'm a little bit orthopedically challenged, but fortunately not the only one, sir. Nothing like a quad tear before summer.
Hey guys, if you want to talk, go over there. Okay?
Great. So thank you for having us. And I see a lot of parents in the audience. I assume we've got a lot of parents in the audience. You guys remember cord blood, right? The promise of cord blood. They want you to pay a bunch of money to get that blood. And you know what? Maybe something's going to happen to your child. I don't know. But you want to spend the money? Well, now we're going to end up in the world of predictive genomics for newborns, a predictive genomic service. And so when you take a look at the problem, you know, as a parent, you're worried about your child as they're about to be born. We've got things like rare diseases affecting 30 million people in the U.S. And we know, for those of you, talk it up? Okay. For those of you who have worked in rare disease, it's a cluster, right? In order to get diagnosed, it's 4 to 5 years. It's a lot of expensive workups and going through the system, seeing different specialists, going to different hospitals. There's a huge opportunity in rare disease if you can predict if your child might be at risk for a specific rare disease. And I've worked in Mork OA and hereditary angioedema, and there's a huge opportunity, and we believe that it is in rare disease. But it's also about common disease, right? Things like diabetes, cardiovascular, allergies. We can predict those things as well. So we've developed a service platform. What is that solution? Well, it's called Foresight 360, and it combines a revolutionary physician-ordered screening test that's specifically made for healthy newborns, infants, and children. And we can take a look at over 250 manageable conditions across what I just talked about. But here's the gotcha. It comes with 18 years of genomic counseling as a service. So you're not just getting your genome sequence, but you're able to meet with a counselor year over year. And what does that get you? Well, there are new insights, there are new opportunities, there are new products and services coming to market that they can take advantage of. New drugs that are coming to market, you'll be able to take advantage of for your child, and that's what we're offering to those parents. And it's done through easy clinic activation, right now through OBGYN and IVF and fertility clinics, but also through at home through a retail model that we just launched about a month ago. And as we know, 87.9% of in a survey of rare disease participants agree that genome sequencing for monogenetic treatable conditions should be available to all newborns. So there's a definite need out there. Let's talk about reanalysis, because I talked about the 18 years of service, right? Things change over time. Things change in your child's life. Things change in the ecosystem that we live in. Things change from a clinical perspective. And we want to make sure that we're bringing that to bear for those children that might be suffering or may have an opportunity, may have a chance of suffering from a specific type of disease. And so that's about reanalysis, bringing that to bear for the child. Hello. Yep. No, it's okay. Here, guys. There we go. Well, what's so different about us, right? We're not like your regular everyday panels, right? We're not like your 23andMe. We're a full DNA sequence product. And we are really focused on clinical and social utility, right? So bringing to bear not only those products, but the clinical services and support through the genetic counseling, but also through the doctors that are working with those children and those parents. We want to focus on conditions you can manage, right? We want to give you access to the latest research and clinical insights, many uses for DNA throughout an entire lifetime. And so we're building this as a service, but also building a portal for patients and parents to come in and engage with so that they can see their genomic information, but also productize other services that those parents might be interested in. And so what's our go-to-market strategy? We've done two things so far. We're in over 100 clinics right now as of April. We're adding about 10 clinics a week. That's IVF, OBGYNs, and other fertility clinics. We also launched our e-commerce engine, so our website is live, and we're selling over 50 products predicted this month, right, at a premium price, 75 to 10% of the market. We also have strategic channel partnerships, working with the cord blood banks, blood banks, fertility centers, IVS, and work with, in California, specific hospital systems and IDNs. In the near term, like I said, we're focused on those early adopters. It's about 5 to 10% of cash, about a $5,000 minimum advertised price right now. We have payment opportunities, payment plans through a loan provider for about $99 a month. But our ultimate goal, and this is about 12 to 18 months away, is expanding that access to everybody for a $19.99 month subscription service with some subsidized opportunities. Our long-term goals, it's about equitable access, greater emphasis on prevention healthcare, and helping those kids live healthier lives where those parents can take advantage of knowing what their kid's health future is. So great.
Okay, that's great. Great 4 minutes. Judges, if you have questions, if you can hear me and I can hear you, like you're around the corner, you might want to move further away. Please quiet down back there, please. So we got 4 minutes. Take your turns. Keep the questions and the answers short. And timer ready? Okay, let's go.
So I'm not entirely clear on how you differentiate yourself from a lot of the other providers out there that are already targeting IVF and fertility clinics, having been through this process personally.
Yeah, we are right now the first in terms of prenatal and newborn babies with our genome sequencing product, but also the first one to combine various channel partners to build out that service model in the hub. So everything from genomic counseling to the testing and to the physician bank in order to approve those tests and evaluate those tests. So we're the first ones out there to actually have done that.
This is something that physicians need to order.
You can order it directly as a consumer. Like I said, there's an e-commerce website that's up today. Or what we do is partner with physicians and clinics so they can offer it, and we have a rev share model for this.
Where do you think your revenues are going to come from, the channel?
We believe primarily from the clinics.
Okay, because I mean, ordering this for healthy babies doesn't make any sense. And the guidelines are monster to change, and because of the costs involved and so forth, and the probability of finding something, as you know, I've sat on guideline committees. Yeah. Something like this is an impossibility to get into the guidelines. So my question is, how do you increase the number of tests ordered, given the fact that for an average healthy baby, physicians aren't going to be inclined to order it unless it gets into the guidelines, which is tough.
Well, in that particular case, we look at it from a consumer perspective, because what we're really doing now is generating as much consumer awareness as we can. So we're developing both an activation model around social media, generating awareness online, and really trying to own that category. So we're doing some unbranded work in terms of developing that category and talking to those mothers and those parents to be, and really generate just like cord blood is. Sort of the cord blood model is what you want to do the most for your baby, right? You want to know the future of your baby's health, and can you take a step in order to do that? At the lower price model, we think that's a win-win. Right now, we are really targeting, especially when you launch in California, where we have that 5 to 10% of that consumer, where we're actually getting some sales. So we're seeing some really good.
And from a first blush, I mean, I can see this from a consumer or retail health perspective, where you're getting parents' number one worry, which is the health of their kids.
Yeah.
So I can see where that comes. At $49.95, it would seem to be fairly wealthy, though, individuals that could pay out of pocket for this. Not sure how insurance is going to cover it. I am curious about your link with farm insurance subsidies, just because there is a new batch of healthcare fintech companies that are doing structured finance products for high-cost therapies that would address these type of these things. So I'd be curious if you have any partnerships like that that might help with this.
We're in the process of developing those partnerships, largely on the clinical side and working with some of the hospital networks so some of on our board, we have several physicians, OBGYNs and pediatricians. We're known in the California market, and we're developing some partnerships on that side. It's early stage right now, starting getting our feet.
I'm sorry, how much have you raised already and how much?
Well, we just launched literally 3 weeks ago. We sold 50, so 5 2.
Okay, one more question. From the crowd, anyone? Just say it loudly.
Well, what percentage of the test is whole genome sequencing based? All 100%. 100%. Yes. 100%. Yes.
Do you do microbiome?
Oh yes, microbiome. Yes, we do. Yes, that's included in the test.
So my question is, when you have this data, how do you turn that into actionable data, and what's your plan for that?
So the data side is another opportunity for monetization that we see. We look at it in terms of, there's a population health aspect to it.
As the parent.
Oh, as a parent?
Yeah, so I have a bad gene, what do I do? Do you guys help with that?
Oh yeah, and that's the point behind the genetic counseling service, because what you do is look at the potential symptoms and advancement of that child over time, and say, you know what, there's an emerging chance that your child might be or might potentially have a disease or a health condition that you want to proactively manage. And so working with that counselor, between the counselor and the physician, we develop a protocol and work on therapy for that particular child to make sure they don't get it.
How many conditions can you do that for?
Like there's 250 now. That'll expand over
Do you
time.
focus on those?
All 250?
Meaning, is that what you test for? Is that what you send?
We do send it right for all 250. Yeah. But some of the rare diseases, smaller cognitive rare diseases.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yeah, one.
Bobby.
So if right now the at cost for a full genome sequencing can be as low as $200, why not go and do a much lower, rather than $5,000, do lower cost screening tests and then have all the add-ons for a long-term package?
Yeah, that's a great opportunity that we have not looked at yet. The key that in terms of when we pitch it to parents is the combination of the service model around the genomic counseling and 18 years of that. So when you look at that over time, right, that's a 10x, 12x multiplier of the genome sequencing and the service and the inclusive of itself.
From their perspective, that's only useful if there's a problem with the screening. So most people, if they think my baby's healthy, they're not going to go and spend that large out-of-pocket cost to figure out otherwise.
Yeah, and that's why I believe it's only an 18-month gift, because what we have to do is prove out the model and prove out it's a sellable product at a higher price point as we begin to work on our subsidization model and get it down to the 1995. Where I think it's a viable opportunity.
All right, big round of applause for Dave. Okay, please take a moment we're gonna have a networking break after this. So please finish out your forms and then hand them to anybody raising their hand, me, Avi, my brother, Patrick, Deanna, any of the folks with their hands raised. Raise your hands, folks. Okay, and then they'll get them over to us, and then we'll do the analysis. Then we're gonna break for 15 minutes, get a drink, okay, go to the bathroom, whatever, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna have a full panel up here, and they're gonna talk about the future of healthcare, and maybe somebody else will win bingo again. Okay, thank you for listening. Thank you for your thoughts on all these companies. Thank you for your patience with our technical issues, and thank you to Patrick for putting up with me. Thank you to all our team's pitchers. Hey folks, we're gonna get the show started again. We got a great panel for you, and we got some really interesting ideas we want you to think about. We actually, me and Jules Desiderio, and can you get to those 5 chairs? Oh, and we're gonna turn the screen on, so you're in front of the screen. So the moderator, Gail Zatz, actually you're gonna wind up standing here. So I'm gonna turn that down. But no, not yet. So first, Joe and I are gonna tell you something. So if you guys want to come take your seats, grab a drink, finish up that conversation. We're gonna actually have a party afterward, networking. So you guys have all kinds of time to talk. But right now, do you ever fall for one of those timeshare things? So that's kind of what we're gonna do now. So I want to tell you about an idea, which I think you're gonna like, called MedStarter Labs. So, Joe Desiderio, come on up.
So we need a projector.
We need it for now, yeah. You guys come down and take a seat.
Oh, yeah.
Hey folks, you want to come down and take a seat? I want to tell you about this place and what we want to do here. So you've heard pitches from startups. This is a new idea that we want you guys to pay attention to. So come on down. We're going to get the panel started. So how many people here are working from home still? Who's working from home? Okay, so you don't have a commute, right? Do you miss actually this kind of thing? Seeing people? Anybody? No? You want to stay working at home? Well, that's the question, right? So we're not sure, but this place that you are right now, we could take over and make a healthcare innovation hub in New York. This is an idea we call MedStarter Labs. Co-working, events, offices, community hub. So is anybody around for Blueprint Health back in the day? Or has heard of Matter Health? Anyone Matter Health? Matter Health. So we want something like that for us, just us, healthcare people in New York. Now MedStarter Ventures is a venture fund, but Ron Razmi, myself, Direct Shifts, Luke Sandler, and a bunch of companies, about 17 of us, are ready to sit down. But I want about twice that many before I sign the lease. And this is the place that we're thinking about for signing that lease. Now, there is nothing like this in New York for healthcare. Okay, there's Alexandria, which is wet labs. There is a place called Cure on Park Avenue South, but they want $1,400 just for a dedicated seat. I don't think that's very startup friendly. They also make it difficult to do events like this. Now, granted, this event's a little clunky, okay? But if anybody went to events at our old space, which was like this, you knew that it was pretty well run because we knew what we were dealing with. Here we got wires all over the place, things aren't working, and we haven't done it for like a year and a half. So I'm very happy Patrick, Avi, me, my team, Deanna, managed to pull it together. But, so this is the basic idea. So we want to create a healthcare innovation center here in New York, and we'd love to have you guys involved in it. As you guys probably know, we are a meetup group with 7,500 people in it in New York, okay? But the idea is that we build this, and we make it sustainable, and we inspire you guys every day. By bringing together people like this, all of this amazing conversations you've been having, imagine having that at the water cooler all day, every day. Well, not all day, obviously, wouldn't get anything done. But you get so many better ideas when you bounce them off of other people who know about this space. And you'll have investors like me and Ron here. It's a great place for startups. We'll run our accelerator programs out of here, and we'll have other people run their accelerator programs out of here. So, I don't know if you know this, but since we started this meetup group in New York, okay, this is like the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth year, the amount of investment in New York went up 13-fold just in healthcare innovation. It's gone way up since then. So it really does drive change, right? So events, community, challenges, and contests like tonight, and MedStarter Labs is what we call this idea. Okay, so this is the floor plan for this space. We've got offices, we've got space for 60 people to sit down and hot desks. If you look over on the other side, there's a rooftop up top, there's showers, and it's right here in the middle of Manhattan where everybody can get to. Marta Habekamp, one of the most amazing people I know in healthcare, lives across the street. She'll be here all the time. Okay, Ron's down the street. This is the center of everything. It's where everything should be. So you haven't really looked around that much, but we got the event space. Ooh, look, I could use the laser pointer. We got the event space. We got Ron Razmi. Sorry. Hey, Joe Desidrio, get up. Joe Desidrio, please get your butt up here. Okay, you got conference rooms, and we're gonna go see the roof later. Okay, so we designed this to be very affordable, and if you sign up, okay, before we get to 50% full, which hopefully will be soon, it's really cheap, right? So it's below market rates, and we think it's a great idea. So if you're really interested in this idea, there's an application. We're gonna try to focus just on healthcare, but we're going to see what happens, right? So if you're a corporate sponsor and you want to have your name on that front wall, instead of Candid, it'll say MedStarter, and then it'll have all of the corporate sponsors. Okay, so all different levels, whatever is comfortable for you, whatever time. But, hang on, I think I skipped one. So the seats are pretty cheap. The corporate sponsorships, not so cheap. But if you want to do events like this every 3 days, and every like healthcare club or New York healthcare business leaders, or whatever they call themselves these days, Hit Lab, okay, it should all be here every day, right? And then you always go to the same place, and then people sit down, and then, hey, if you're working over there, just come over here for the event. Makes life very easy. Now, we have had over 157 different corporate sponsors for our events. Joe DeSidrio over here, raise your hand, okay, is going to be our head of partnerships. So if you are interested in sponsoring this idea, getting it off the ground, he's the guy to talk to. So anyway, so just like if you go for a timeshare, okay, this event, this is the timeshare sales pitch. So anyway, get a seat, come on, join the community, and let's do this. So anybody interested? Show of hands. Anyone? Raise your hand, Ron. Ron's interested. Okay, we would love to see you guys every day here working here. Now, there's all different programs, 1 day a month, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, every day, things like that. So we know we're all gonna have a tough time coming back to work, but this is one of the reasons I really want to do this event tonight, to see what you all think of this idea. So you guys all have my email address, you got my phone number. Joe's here, come talk to me, Avishai, Joe, my brother John, Rob Deli, an artist, any of the people at MedStarter, and we'd love to hear what you think about it. So while Pat is crunching the data, we're going to go ahead and do the panel. This is one of my favorite panels I've ever seen. And pardon me? The data is crunched, so that's good. I got to review it. So we're going to quickly let's get Manny Fambu, our keynote speaker. Big Manny, come on up. You're on the panel. Panelists, please come up. Gaurav, where's Gaurav? Matthew Zachary, patient activist extraordinaire, CEO of Off-Script Health. Okay, so I know all these guys pretty well. So Gail Zatz is an amazing resource for value-based care. She's been in the industry for a while. She almost died many times. Keynote speaker, she's amazing. Manny didn't come. She was going to do that. Yeah, she was in the backup. And Matt Zachary, if you ever heard of Stupid Cancer and I'm Too Young to Die, that's his. I mean, they'll all introduce themselves. But I love these guys. Well, Manny, I don't know that well. But all of them, they're just amazing people.
Why are you judging?
I'm just saying that I don't know you well enough to love you. Okay, I really like you. Okay.
I love you, love both of us.
I don't say it that easily. Okay, you can ask people in this room.
I love you.
Anyway, so okay, so do you want anything on the slide, Don? Okay. No, this is your mic. Okay, so I'm gonna get out of the way. So go ahead, Gail Zatz, take it away. Woo!
What? Okay, yay. How long do we have? All right, so like a bunch of rock stars here, 30 minutes. So 30 minutes, let's do 3 things. So that's 10 minutes each, so we gotta go fast. Where are we? Where are we going? And what do we wish to tell startups? Okay? So where are we? We've had all these deals happen. We've got retail, Amazon, everything that's happening. What have we solved? What haven't we solved? And who today? Okay, go. Where?
Okay.
These are rock stars. These are great.
One question.
Where are we?
We are nowhere.
See?
Where are we going? I think we're still talking around in circles.
Right.
I don't think there's a clear path in the direction which we're going. I think we're still walking around in silos. I think where we're going is understanding and having a much better picture of where we need to go. And I think if we have a better story as an industry. Try to keep the mic here. Seriously.
What have we solved today?
We solve nothing. If you look at all the companies in that space of what we've done, they go up on the bust. If you look at celebrate the Boston, right? You look at Amazon, Amazon does closed. We are like cheerleaders cheering after Amazon and people around us. I think has been done. People are still dying every single day. It's like COVID, tons of people dying. No one live longer. What have we done? Absolutely nothing. I think it's a lot more we can do.
So I think a few things to keep in mind. Less than 10% of what can be automated or digital health solutions that could be implemented have been implemented today. That's because it's very difficult to navigate the healthcare landscape. There's reimbursement issues. There's archaic IT infrastructure you need to plug into. The data is very fragmented. And physicians and patients have not behaved as we thought. And Alex and I started two of the earliest companies in the digital health back in 2010. And everything that we thought at the time has turned out to be wrong. People did not keep their wearables on. People did not change their behavior when they saw their own data. People did not log into patient portals, look at their labs, and become activated about their own health. I am optimistic because I think we needed to go through a decade of learning what doesn't work, understanding the push versus pull, figuring out what business models work, what business models don't work, and what needs to be automated, what physicians are not going to automate.
So what business models work?
Well, I mean, we saw traction around certain systems that focus on back end, automating certain things such as electronic health records, which they're terrible systems, but they gain adoption because government put a lot of money on the table. And even though the data is locked up, even though it's terrible interface, we saw great adoption of electronic health records. As clunky as they are, the fact that a lot of the data is in there is unstructured, they were a necessary first step in being able to create the next generation systems that are going to allow us to start bringing intelligent automation into healthcare. But it's critical to understand in healthcare, one piece of data changes the entire picture of a patient. If I know everything about you except one piece of data, like last night, you got a lab done and your creatinine is too high, that changes the entire management. And if I'm running an AI model on your data and it's coming up with some gangbuster recommendations, however, it doesn't know that you had a lab done last night and your creatinine is elevated, it's all null and void. So healthcare is not for sissies. Amazon could have 20% of your data. Netflix could have 10% of your watching habits, and it can make decent recommendations. In healthcare, if I have 99.9% of your data, unfortunately, I don't have enough data about you to make appropriate clinical decision support decisions. So I think we're still at a stage where the next stage of adoption of technology is going to be around administration and operations. Clinical is still not here and now yet.
So outside of that, Matthew, 25 years ago you started stupid cancer? 25 years
No,
ago?
I entered the world of stupid cancer 27 years ago.
27 years ago. What do we have? I know you want to talk about everything we haven't done, and I think everybody on the panel wants to. But in 27 years, what do you think we have accomplished? That's the tough question. See, like.
Nothing. The only thing that's ever changed anything in this country are advocates who fuck back through policy. Because no one is incentivized to give a shit about the person at the end of the pill, of the data, or of the rope they want to hang themselves with if they have to split their baby formula because they can't afford something. I've been representing Americans, not patients, Americans. Not the system,
not the data, not the tech, not the geniusness of what we do, because no American gives a fuck about what we're doing, because we're supposed to be the ant farm that makes shit better for them. So that's my perspective.
On what patient advocates can do, something that I started doing, so I just want to stop for 1 second. If everybody has a drink, I actually have a Pellegrino. I don't know if anybody's who's aware, but we lost one of the great patient advocates recently, Casey Quinlan.
Rip Casey.
And she asked, what she asked for us all to do was have a drink for her. So anywhere that I've been speaking since then, to Casey, mighty Casey,
To Casey.
and to everything that we all do in her path. Now, on that note, what do you think we have accomplished?
Healthcare it's been an interesting time. I've been doing healthcare for 15 years now, so maybe not the 27 right next to me, but I've seen a lot of change. At the end of the day, the real problem is never being addressed, which is the lifestyle that we live in America, the sedentary lifestyle, the diet we eat. If you look at, the world 50 years ago, or even 100 years ago, people's activity levels, each of us in this room, if we'd lived 100 years ago, we're probably doing 100 times more activity, physical activity, when I say activity, physical activity, than we do today. The real culprit is not medicine and how to make it better. Sure, that solves the problem. The real issue is prevention. And so when we think about where healthcare is headed overall, VBC is starting to show perhaps a model, a reimbursement model that helps incentivize better care, but it's still not going to solve the problem. At the end of the day, it really comes back to the consumers caring, to your point, to wanting to live a better lifestyle. And how do you affect that in a society that demands that you sit behind a desk, 40 to 80 hours a week if you're in my profession, and literally, and eat the crap that's served to us from fast food every day in, day out, right? That's really the real issue here. And I wish I could tell you I had a good solution. There's been a lot of VBCs as close as we might get to reimbursing incentivizing payers and providers to really kind of help the patient population sort of address the real issue, which is prevention. That's all I have to say about it.
So,
I want to make sure that I was addressing digital health. Let me mention that Manny and I are both cardiologists. In 1970, if you had a heart attack, your odds of dying from a heart attack in 1970 was greater than 30%. Today, it's less than 5%. When I was an intern at the Mayo Clinic, people came to Mayo to get treatment for hairy cell leukemia. There was a new treatment which watched you 1 or 2 months. It was universally fatal. Today, when you get hairy cell leukemia, you're cured with the first round of chemotherapy. So let's make sure we remember life expectancy has been going up for decades. There are tons of new treatments. Heart failure, when you used to get it, you lived for 3 to 5 years. Now it's become a chronic disease with beta blockers and ACE inhibitors. You can live for a long time. There's been tremendous progress in terms of treatments, and life expectancy has moved as a result. We're in the digital health space. I thought we were talking about that. There's most of what digital health is going to do in healthcare is still ahead of us. We've made some progress, around 10%, but there's 90% to go. But that doesn't mean we haven't made progress in the last 30 or 50 or 70 years.
No, I think we're horrible. The problem in healthcare is, I think we're horrible. The problem in healthcare is that we're all these MD, PhDs, who have to explain. No one cares about their calcium. Who wakes up in the morning and, let me check out my sodium levels. No one cares, right? You want to watch a Netflix movie, you don't care how the movie's made. In digital health, we spend all day talking about, let me look at your calcium levels. Patients don't care. Just tell me what to do, the next best action. That's what we need to do. We don't need to explain to patients what sodium, potassium, whatever. Who cares, right? We watch Netflix. We care what the algorithms are behind this. AI. That's what we talk about. Blockchain, that's what we talk about, right? Just make my life easy, right? If I have a disease and condition, just make my life easy. Just connect with my people.
my big thing always is it doesn't have to be this hard.
It's not.
Like,
Netflix is doing things to drive
this
cars
hard.
up themselves today. Why are we seeing having this debate? Like, it's not that complicated, right? I think we just make a basic element. Talk to the average person in the easiest way. I spend my time in cigar bars, I spend my time in fire station places. I go to Colombia, I go to Medellin projects and I hang out with them. I explain to them, I talk to them. I hang out with people doing hair over the place and talk to them. I still have conversations with them. They have sensors. They can monitor your friends. Get the sensor. That's what we talk to. Easy people. We don't sit here and talk to each other with MD PhDs and talk about p-values. Who cares? Give them the solution to make it happen. Right? Let's do the research in the back end. Make it easy for the person.
I want your energy. What the hell are you on? I have good news for you. So this goes back to how agriculture and that business has kind of screwed us up. I loved your point about how in other countries, the poor have access to better food than the rich, and in our country, it's the opposite. So true. I was working on a bill many, many years ago based on Frank Lattenberg's TSCA reform bill in the 90s, which mandated that the American Chemistry Council had to start regulating more than just 2% of all things used in our shampoos and shit. It took 20 years, but last week the bill finally passed. And now the American Chemistry Council is getting sued for not allowing the release of additional data on toxic shit in our food, our water, our cosmetics. But it gave rise to, again, this is kind of an elitist thing because it's mainly for people that have means and access, to dozens of brands in the health and beauty space that are producing stuff that are toxin-free based on evidence-based research and long-term outcomes. So the opportunity to not get certain things that you didn't want to have in the first place just by using deodorant are much less prevalent now because of advocacy and policy. Should it take 20 years? No.
Amazing. So where are you gonna bet your money and time? They want to know where we are by 27. What do you think? What are you willing to bet on that you think is going to be the big growth?
I think we sit together like this. I think we pick specific illnesses. I think we define what the world looks like in 5 years and see what we need to make it happen. Right? Let's say we pick cancer. Pick cancer. And we sit together in the same discussion like this, and every company working in that space will create a roadmap. What are the companies that fit this roadmap to make it happen? We invest in those companies to make it happen. We don't need to go and pitch to people and make these things. I don't pitch to these things. It's my time. It's a story we have to tell, another story. And we just support each other to make the story happen, right? Because there's a need in this space, right? So I'm one of those that I have a good idea of waiting for government to make policy on certain things. We can create policies ourselves. We care about privacy. We care about these things. We have people dying every single day that they suffer from. We sit together, man. We have expertise and infectious disease and things amongst us. Let's sit together and talk. Bring patients together. Before the investors like that make it happen. That's the only way it can work, right? So we do that and solve the problem. We have the experts in this, but we don't have to go to patients and explain to them about this. Just solve the problem.
So you're betting on people coming together.
Well, I'm not betting. We're making it happen. We're gonna make it happen. Like this. This is great. That's what we're doing.
I think these large language models that are now coming out that are allowing us to start going through historic clinical data, literature, patient notes, and extracting insights out of it. Up until now, this has been an insurmountable barrier because with old NLP technology, you have to go through the individual studies, circle the appropriate concepts and keywords in order to be able to abstract the right concepts out of it. Now, with this revolution in AI, where it can go through studies and identify insights and cross-reference studies, there's discussions that there's 80 to 90%, or we've only extracted 10% of the insights out of the studies that have been done to date, that there's another 9x insights sitting inside the studies we've already done that we haven't been able to pull out because we haven't had the tools. So
you're betting AI is going to be the
I'm betting AI is a tool, and the large language models could be actually a tool to extract insights that allows us to quickly address a lot of unaddressed issues, clinical issues. It doesn't solve workflow problems, medication adherence problems, a lot of the things that digital health tools are trying to address, but it could lead to gaining a lot of additional insights quickly out of existing medical literature.
So getting people together, AI, do you think value-based care is gonna make a difference?
Yeah, well, I think VBC is the future reimbursement model. I mean, CMS has got numerous VBC model and programs going on right now. We'll see which one wins. I mean, I think ACO REACH is probably the most realistic, focus on cost, right? So, but I mean, we'll see where that goes. The capitated payment model is the future. Payers want it.
You think we're really gonna go to full attribution by 2030?
By 2030, probably not, but I think in the next 10 years, yeah, to 2023, by 2035.
Do you think the new focus on Medicaid is gonna make a difference?
That's a loaded question.
Medicaid?
Yeah, that's where that's.
Of course not. Everyone dies from Medicaid. Like, every insurance company.
Billions, districts coming out this year. Districts coming out again, right?
Have you ever had a negotiation with a pharmaceutical company in this room, right? I mean, have you ever had a conversation? I've had negotiations with pharmaceutical companies, with payers. Payers don't care if you die, if you have Medicare or Medicaid. They don't care, because they save money when you die. Every payer was profitable during COVID. All those people died. They make money, people die. They don't care about Medicaid patients. So the idea that we're sitting having this conversation, we have to be realistic. Every insurance company is profitable during COVID.
Yeah, but we've made it awfully profitable to care about dual eligibles.
No, that's not.
I mean, there's really good reimbursements now. I mean, are people gonna act where the better reimbursements are?
No one cares about Medicaid patients because they don't pay for this, okay? I practice medicine in these neighborhoods. Like, I'm in the projects that in New York and around this place. I've seen people that have drank soda their whole life and amputated legs because they cannot afford. They can afford soda. Soda is cheaper than water. Soda is cheaper than water. The can of soda, 2 liters a bottle, is cheaper. So the idea here is about the individual to care about their health, not about who pays for it. That's the idea I'm trying to push. I'm not saying that they don't care about it, but Medicaid is an expense. If you die, it's cheaper.
So in these new models, Matthew, they're calling for patients to be part of governing bodies.
All of this is above my pay grade.
No. Do you think?
I don't. I genuinely have no answer.
Do you think that patient involvement is going to make a difference?
Only if it matters to the economic gains of progress. And it never has and it never will. I do want to comment on your yes, my dad would not be alive today if not for progress of triple bypass surgery. But as recompense for that progress, he was issued a bill for $250,000. So there's an over-under on taking advantage of people at the end of the pill. So my perspective is, and I love your optimism on AI. I've done so many panels where I'm next to some doctors that say it's great, and I'm sitting on the consumer protection side of misabuse, disabuse, misinformation, when you can say anything you want, have anyone look the way you want, and seemingly, actor or not actual doctor happen anywhere you want. We're doomed, and no one's mentioned robot on the bingo card. So I'm just going to channel James Cameron and say we are all doomed with the robot apocalypse, with misinformation and disinformation, unless governing consumer protection laws are passed around all this chicanery.
Actually, I do agree that major regulation is needed. AI is becoming very powerful, very fast. We know OpenAI CEO was testifying yesterday in front of Congress. And actually, to your point about optimism, I'm not known to be an optimistic person. I have a textbook of AI coming out, and when Alex was reviewing a couple of chapters for me, he called me up and he said, "You're being very pessimistic." So I think the implementation of AI, the fact that there are so many things that have to come together in order for a digital health tool to be adopted is still an issue. I'm saying the underlying methodologies are very powerful now, and they may be able to deliver results in certain areas. I'm more optimistic than I was 6 months ago.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say I've got an 18-year-old coming into it, right? Like, she wants to make a difference. And where would we say you can make a difference in healthcare? I mean, are we saying quit? I mean, guys, I love you all, but like, it's sounding a little.
That's not the idea.
So where can people start making a difference? And where can a startup, where would you say a startup is in the right space that it's going to make a difference?
Listen, if you look at venture firms around the world, I've led venture, pharma, I've led venture, payers, and this. Okay? So, anyone has a job with the title innovation in it, the next step is depression after that job. Okay? Tell me anyone that you know over the years that have been in the job with the title innovation. Go to innovation. Innovation have no budgets in any company, right?
Can you keep the mic by your mouth?
Yeah.
Thank you. I like that because that means someone cares for listen. Thank you. If you see anyone with a job title innovation, you get burned out eventually, right? Any company, whether it's in pharma or this. So if you're a startup company and you start up and you go and you pitch into J&J Labs or Novartis or this, and I ran this venture fund, so I know exactly what happens, right? That $100 million funds, $100 million fund for Novartis or J&J is like peanuts.
Okay, so
Right.
where can money, what's a good bet? I mean, you guys are sounding,
Look,
I mean, we already know, right? We spend more money than any other developed country. We have worse outcomes. It's 20% of our GDP. We have the highest infant mortality. This is all true, everybody. You can quote me on this. Of any developed country, we've got of the developed countries for the money.
Yeah. Hold on, but let me also
Yeah, developed countries.
let me also
The
mention.
developed countries. So, yeah, no, my stats are right. It's a very, very sad, expensive world.
Also,
So, but there's got to be some, right there. We got startups here. We've got people who want to do. Where would you bet that something's going to
yeah.
be?
So let me. You've heard me say this before. I think value-based care is a waste of time. I think it's been going on. With my apologies.
I'm also a value-based care. We've had this going on.
We've had this
right?
discussion. We've United States spends more money on healthcare
In any other developed country.
any other advanced nation, and it has the worst outcomes by
The
far.
worst outcomes.
And none of those countries have value-based care or know what it is.
Right. Oh, but they have universal health care. I know if we're going to say it, we're the only developed country that doesn't have universal health care.
But so let me finish, please.
Which is
Let me finish. BBC is not universal healthcare. Universal healthcare is when everybody has access. Value-based care, I've been on the ground floor. I built one of the first companies in this space. It's very difficult to do. You have providers now that already have a whole lot to do. There's shortage of them, they're burned out. And now you're bringing this whole new thing and you're dropping it on their head, which is be responsible for this patient's outcome. By the way, that patient has lifelong habits that are very hard to change, and it requires a team. And I saw Montefiore do an amazing job with it, and still, they moved the needle more than other people, but they didn't move it much. So from my point of view, stepping out of my role as an investor or as a physician, if I'm looking at every country, every advanced nation, they have universal health care, no value-based care, they have better outcomes, longer life expectancy at lower costs, I think I'm going to do universal health care rather than building this complicated value.
All right, so what are the chances we're going to do universal health care?
I think we made progress with Affordable Care Act. There's 10% of people who are still uninsured. It's doable. Let's cover the remaining 10%. It's not impossible.
You think it'll happen? What do you think?
I think it's easier than doing value-based care, which is really hard.
Look, I think universal health care in this country will never happen. There's too many incentives for it to not happen, right? Imagine a single payer system which has the ability to negotiate with pharmaceutical companies, with providers in a big way.
Universal health care is different than single payer system. Universal is when everybody's covered. You can still have multiple insurance companies.
Then there's no universal.
No, universal means everybody's covered.
And the general.
Yeah, that's fair.
But single payer means government covers everybody. Those are two different things.
Like, when we usually talk about universal health care, globally, most of them are single payer systems, government funds.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying it doesn't have to because,
I feel like we're just getting going, but
Wait.
I just got a 2-minute warning.
I was going to say, it's time to go when they're tearing down the set while you're still talking.
Right? I feel like we're just getting going.
I don't want to say I've had the final word, but
30 seconds each.
we are missing the single most important aspect of communication. Healthcare lacks empathy and trust. Nothing we've talked about today or at any of these conferences ever discusses that. And I'll conclude with that little cockle in your synapse.
And what I was trying to say earlier about the investment piece is you go into a pharmaceutical company, a corporate venture fund, in a pharma or a health system, a payer. It's like Netflix or Airbnb going to Marriott to ask them to invest in them. You understand? If we look at our main structures of investment right now, we go to the same corporate investments. No, you got to disrupt the industry, go to the same people to invest in. You have to be separate. You have to create a new mentality, not dependent on the same people to disrupt. Right? You can't. So we have to come to groups like this, empower ourselves, raise the funds, and invest in ideas like this. So I think it's a great gathering for us to do this. I think we do it ourselves. We don't need them to do it. To try to disrupt them. Let's create our own journey.
And I'll end by saying I'll pivot a little bit from what we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes to where I see the future of treatment going, which is I think we have this very, very bright future. I think AI, to your point, is going to open up and create lots of innovation in developing drug therapeutics, developing new technologies that are really going to revolutionize healthcare. So it's a very, very bright, spot in our kind of where we're headed for healthcare when it comes to treatment.
I'll just say that there was a study published in JAMA this week that showed the large language model powered chatbots were much more empathetic and had provided much better responses than physicians. And their conclusion was physicians are constrained for time. They provide quick responses, but a GPT-4 powered chatbot that had time to provide a full response and provide some empathy kick doctors' ass. So technology is part of the answer.
These are rock stars, right? It's like, how could I like bring them in, right? But we're going to a rooftop party so we can continue this conversation. Please join us. Thank you to the great Alex Fair for bringing everybody together. Come check out the space.
I really wish that this could go on forever. So let's bring up the teams. We're gonna tell you who won. We're gonna do awards. I want to thank everybody for coming. So Robert, Michael, and Dave, come on up. Really, you're all winners, and I was really impressed with how you did, and I look forward to working with you guys. So Michael, come on up. So we have Jennifer, who's going to take pictures, things like that. So let's get all over here. Our photo up. Let's ride. Judges, what do you guys line up here? Faces, everyone. Faces.
The most important thing in the night.
Face here, help me out. Jen, move those chairs. We can all be straight line. We don't really need the mics. Okay, so we're taking pictures of all the judges on the teams. Okay, so we have all the teams. Robert, Michael, Manny, Jennifer, take pictures, take candid.
Why do you turn the projector on for the picture?
Because you want the background. You want Manny in the background. Manny, can you stand? Right? Tippy toes. It's quick. This is like all head above me. Okay, so Jennifer, you're supposed to be there. Okay, thank you. Okay, internet, thank you for watching. Thank you for seeing the panel. I wish we were gone. We can't show you what's going to happen next because it's going to be at some rooftop. Anyway, so it's Alex Fair from MedStar. I'm very happy to announce drum roll. We get a drum roll. Don't do it on my head. Don't do it on my head. Top team, Michael from Whisper Song. Good job. We're not going to go into runner-ups or things like that. But in my opinion, you're all winners. You all did great. First time for Robert. I thought you did great. And the team, I think I got a lot of hope for. So we got prizes for all of you. So Michael, over there are some of the prizes. Over there on the there. Over there. Get that off the Jesus, I'm really terrible at stage direction. Okay, so you already have one of these.
Okay, so we'll give it to Steven. Yeah. It'll actually fit. Yeah. I'm sorry, you get one for your wife, Mike. I have other stuff. Your favorite call. That's what I have right here. So anyway, okay, so everybody smile, look at the camera. Look at the wife behind you. And among the crowd. Everybody say, okay, so just panel, teams. Okay, now everybody put up the number one, because you're all fucking winners. We got number one. Okay, now do this one. We are. Should do that too. Number two, it's all mine, Chris. Two. Jennifer, take Chris.
Last time I gave was 3 years ago.
So please post pictures. Use the hashtag Medmo23. We are all going to head over to the rooftop bar. If you want to help clean up, that's great. Put things in the garbage, things like that. So we're going to break it down in about 20 minutes. We're going to have